McLean, and I have got such a fantastic show for you. I'm going to squeeze it all in before 3 o'clock. I'll be chatting to two very funny people, the amazing Ben Ashenden, who's star of a new show, Live from the Moth Club, and the fantastic Kat Sadler, who you will have been enjoying on Radio 4 recently. I want to hear about your first from 2022, and we've got tracks in the Welsh A-list.
Following Wales
in the World Cup.
BBC Radio Wales and BBC Sounds.
full of action. I get screamed while others get dreamed. Cool rock ski, on the go to see.
And you're listening to BBC Radio Wales. I'm Kiri Prichard-Mclean. Now, normally I do the show from my beloved studios in Bangor, but today I'm in Wrexham because, very excitingly, I've been doing some recording here. And part of that recording is I got to go and watch Wrexham AFC of Hollywood fame now go and play. They were playing at home, playing Farnborough. Now, they won 4-1, and I feel like this has put me off to a full start because I had never, ever been to a football match before, not even one at school. So I went along. There was nearly 10,000 people in the stadium. Everyone was singing along. Everyone was chanting. I watched a hometown Welsh team win 4-1. And now I think that's what all football is. So I'm worried I've set the bar kind of too high for myself. I don't know where I'm going to go from here. But I just thought, well, this is strange, isn't it? I'm 36 years old, and this is the first time I've ever been to a live football match, especially as live football is so big in North Wales. People, love playing football up here. So that made me think, what have you guys experienced for the first time this year? What has 2022 been the year of first for in your case? Is it like me? Is it a sporting event that you've never been to live? Or maybe you've been somewhere you've always wanted to go? Anything like that. Maybe you've tasted a food. I can tell you, for one, it is the year that my father had Caribbean food for the first time in, of all places, Aberystwyth, which is, of course, where we all go for our jerk chicken. So what has been your first that you've had this year? I would love to hear from you. And it can be anything. It can be a big life event that means that you've changed a nappy for the first time. It can be the first time you've managed to get from your bedroom door to your bed without stubbing your toe on the same thing you stub your toe on every time you put the light out. Anything like that, I would love to hear from you. You can give us a call on 03700 100 110. You can text us on 81012, pop your name at the end and where you're texting from, or you can tweet at BBC Radio Wales. More fantastic music now. This is Foreigner and Cole.
Yeah. No.
To BBC Radio Wales, I'm Kiri Prichard-Mclean. I'm here in the studios in Wrexham because I have been here for the weekend, partaking in all the wonderful joys that Wrexham and Llangollen have to offer. And one of them was having the absolute honour of going to see Wrexham play at home, which was absolutely wild. My first ever football game, and now I'm utterly hooked. And not just because I was hoping to see Ryan Reynolds or Rob McElhenney there. I actually enjoyed the atmosphere as well. The atmosphere of me craning my eyes across the stadium to see if they were in the box. But it was absolutely fantastic. It was so good, and there was families there. There was such a good atmosphere, and then an amazing result as well, but also very respectful of the other fans. So I had a fantastic time. I'm a football fan. I'm a convert now. But it was, like I say, the first time I'd ever been to a football match. So I wanted to know, what are the things you've done this year for the first time? I tell you the other thing I did, again in Wales this year for the first time. I went on a hike. It was not big on the agenda of my farming parents to go on hikes when we had any kind of time off. So I'd never been on a hike. And just generally, even though I love the countryside, I do avoid walking for a long time nowhere in it. But I did it this year. I did one I did one in May for charity in Pembrokeshire, and until the blisters hit, I thought, well, this is absolutely lovely. I do see why people do this. It's fantastic. We saw seals, we walked across the coast, it was lovely, but then I was slightly incapacitated by the blisters on my feet, which were the size of, to the point where they nearly had their own postcode. It was quite a difficult thing, and I was like, I'm never hiking again. And then this morning, I did a hike in Llangollen. I went up to, is it Castellbran, I think it is, at the top that looks over Llangollen. So that's a big thing for me this year. Turns out I'm one of those hikers that you hear so much about. I'm not. Just when people force me to do it, I will rock up and do it. So hiking I've done this year, going to see football match live this year. I would love to hear from you about your year of firsts. What have you done in 2022 for the first time? Maybe you have learnt a language and had a conversation in it for the first time. Maybe it's a new food you tried. Maybe you've taken up a sport. I would love to hear from you. You can give us a call on 03700 100 110. You can text us on 81012, and you can tweet us at BBC Radio Wales. I'll be chatting to my first guest in a little while. He's brilliant. He's a fantastic comedian writer who is part of the iconic double act that is The Pin. His name is Ben Ashenden. He is amazing. You'll probably recognise his voice because he seems to be, every time I turn on the television, he just pops up on the things that I'm watching and enjoying. So I'll be having a good catch up about everything that he's been up to. But we're going to have a bit of Rufus Wainwright after this.
It starts.
Listening to BBC Radio Wales. I'm Kiri Prichard-Mclean, and I'm so excited to be joined by my first guest, a phenomenal writer and a performer, a comedian, and a good egg as well. Thank God. Thank God. I only have good eggs on the show, actually. It's one of my criteria. It's the fantastic Ben Ashenden. How are you doing, love?
Oh, I'm doing so well. I'm absolutely thrilled to be asked to be on the show. Well, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. I'm so glad you agreed to do it as well because you are ridiculously prolific, but I never see you shouting about it in a way that if I got what you got, I would be unbearable.
Really? Oh God. Yeah. Maybe I should be doing that.
I think you should be shouting about it more. But this is what this is about, because I wanted to talk about everything that you have going on. So I think lots of people will know you from your work with The Pin, the double act that you're in with Alex, which is absolutely amazing. And I feel like the big success story of sort of, I mean, there aren't really double acts around. And you know, sketch is something that does very well at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, but rarely breaks through with mainstream success. And I feel like you guys are sort of at the top of the tree with that stuff. Does it feel like...
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Does it feel like a good time to be in a sort of British sketch group, or does it still feel a bit like it's slightly maligned?
I think it's always maligned, and with good reason. It's such a silly thing to do. But there are the great. I don't know about definitely not top of the pile. I mean, there are so many incredible people at the moment doing sketch in this country, like Kyle's recent show on Channel 4 and Ellie and Natasha and Guy's Family Gift Shop, as you know well. And there's so much talent out there at the moment. Everyone's having a lot of fun. But it's a very silly thing to do.
It is, but yours is different again because the sketch show traditionally tend to be like 3 or more. But you also have a foot in the double act camp because it is you and Alex. And I always wonder if you have to work on that relationship like it is almost like a marriage, that you have to grow and evolve at the same speed in the same directions. Does it feel like that from within? Because I'm like fascinated by double act dynamics.
Yeah, no, definitely. We lived together for about 6 years, so that definitely became de facto a marriage. And yeah, you've got to get on. We've never fallen out, which I actually don't know whether that's healthy or not.
That's weird because
maybe we would.
He said the opposite.
He's always saying how much. Yeah, I know, but I let him get away with it, and that's how it works. That kind of backstabbing. No, it's good. Yeah, we get on.
You're also incredibly prolific, like especially during 2020 when obviously there was no option to do live, and you'd just done you'd done a run at the West End, and then the unbelievable rate that you were pumping out online sketches was really. I thought Tara had done a lot, but I was like, this is rude, actually. Like, what kind of sweatshop are they running there, where they're just knocking out these brilliant sketches all the time? That must have been just a full-time job, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we just set ourselves challenges. We were just doing one a week, and as everyone will remember, lockdown. This is before either of us had a kid as well. So it really was just a case of waking up and thinking, well, there's nothing better to do other than eat, sleep, and write sketches. But it was fun. Everyone was just trapped scrolling on their phones at home. So we had a kind of trapped audience.
Best kind.
Yeah.
But did it feel like, did it get to the point at any point where you were like, well, I thought this would have ended now, and I don't know how many hot takes I have on Zoom?
Oh my God, there's only so many things you can say about Zoom/lockdown. I remember we had a joke about, I think, clap for the NHS, and I thought it's this week or never. And then I realised that joke would have worked about a year later. Maybe with slightly less enthusiasm, unfairly, but yeah.
It's interesting as well, because looking at those sketches, and I look back at them, it's a really great snapshot of like a period in time that we are unlikely to encounter again, but they were so good at... Yeah, right? We're only just getting back on our feet. But sort of catching that zeitgeist of that time, or what we're all feeling. You were so great at being so snappy with that. But
thanks so much.
It's going to be put in a time capsule, that's what I'm saying. Was that the goal?
Right. Yeah, I think it's the thing that for me it really tracks is my beard and hair lengths. You know how everyone was growing beards and cutting beards and shaving heads. There's any combination of shaved head, clean shaven, beard, wild hair you want, you can find. If you scroll through them week on week, you can find any combo. You're
like that. Did you ever play that game at Christmas where you had like iron fives on like a normal man's face?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is a deep callback, Kiri. How have you brought that's right from the back of my brain? Yes, I did.
I'm going to do some stuff on the magic fish and crackers soon, yeah. But they're amazing. Like I said, they're so prolific, and that is something that you as you know, with Alex in the pen, are known as being very hard workers, and as a result, you're kind of, and I mean this in a nice way, everywhere.
Oh God. Oh yeah.
But you
really, does it feel like that? That's interesting.
No, it does. It means that, you know, like, there's so many things that I'm like, oh yeah, when he was in Plebs, and, you know, when he was in Staff, and, you know, when you're in Horrible Histories, and, oh yeah, and you popped up in Red Flag as well, and you're in 10%. All these very iconic comedies that have, you know, lauded and respected, that, like, you're always there, aren't you, mate?
Well, you know what? You say Plebs. The only reason I was in Plebs is because I was in Bulgaria filming something else. And I walked past one of the writers, and he needed someone to play a character called Posh Man. And he said, I've spoken to your director, and I know that you're free on Wednesday. It's your day off. Can you come and do a day on Plebs? I was like, well, I'm already in Bulgaria. Yeah. I'm already on the set. Yeah. So wander around sets and look needy, and you might get second jobs. Basically.
That's so funny. That's such a, you know what, that's one of those infuriating anecdotes you hear from someone incredibly famous, where they go, oh yeah, I just called up and said, do you need someone who's 5'9"? And I said yes, and now I'm, you know, and that won an
Tom
Oscar.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to talk about how it would feel because you guys, like I say, churn out all this great work and you kind of create your own worlds and you create lots of work for other acts as well, which is brilliant. We'll be talking about one of the projects in just a second. But I wonder how it feels to step outside of that and then go on to something like Stath, which is a big family cast and very iconic, very respected, very loved. How does it feel like a bit of a jump stepping out of the potential comfort of being in the Pin?
I think it's quite, it feels like a holiday, because you kind of absolve all your responsibilities work-wise for a day or two. You know, when you're filming on someone else's job, you want to focus on their thing. And so if emails come in or obligations arise, you have an excuse to ignore it all. So I see it as a fun holiday, and I can sort of really commit myself to other people's. I'm going to say vision. I'm going to go ahead and say the word vision.
I love it. I love that you've gone with vision. But you're principally known for comedy, but you're popping up in 1899, this series everyone's talking about at the moment.
Oh my God, yeah. It was. I loved the writers. Their first show was called Dark on Netflix, which it's sort of like a bit of a cult hit, and it's my favourite thing, I think, on Netflix. And so when the opportunity came up to audition for their new show, I honestly would have done it even if the character just comes in and goes, message, and then is shot. I would still do that. I would do that role. But luckily, it was a really nice part, and they needed two English people who were kind of the comic relief. It's a lot of fun. I tried to get in good shape for it because I was told I was going to be topless because I work in the coal room. I'm shoveling coal at the bottom of this big ship. So I thought, I'll get right. Okay, come on then. Let's get ripped. Let's get ripped for Christmas. Yeah. And but then for COVID reasons, I had to be in Italy for about 12 days before filming. So I had so much pasta and bread. And with every meal, I thought, worth it.
This is the exact opposite of when you hear a Hollywood star say, tell an anecdote. There's never a bit where it's like, and then I went to Italy and undid all my good work in 12 days.
Yeah,
impressive.
All of it. So check it out. Watch me ballooning across the screen.
And does it feel like when you're doing a huge Netflix production like that, which you know is massive, and like I say, everyone's talking about it? Because that's happened in. I'm not trying to sort of deny you your hard work at all, but you know you were in uni that long ago and doing sort of like you know sort of messing around with sketch comedy, and then all of a sudden you're in this huge multi-million-pound Netflix series like that. Has it happened so gradually and you've worked so hard that you're like yeah of course this is the next step, or are you like what is happening?
Oh no, I'm an absolute child. As soon as I step on these sets, I basically still go outside and call my mum and try to describe it to her. I go, and there's so many and it's so big, and there's so many people here, and you can't really describe how exciting it is. I find maybe I'll get newer to it later on, but no, I feel very much my spirit and soul is still very much walking through the rain in Edinburgh, seeing you coming back from the masseuse, and we were both absolutely drenched, and I was like, I need to go and see a masseuse.
Oh my God, she was amazing.
That's really where I'm at. Yeah.
She fixed all my problems, and now she's moved. And honestly, it's one of the saddest things about going back to the Fringes. I know I have to go back and not have her sort of sort out my psychosomatic back problems for the whole month.
Back problems at the Edinburgh show for me. How to start, how to finish it. Yeah. Well,
I wonder if you do, because you're so busy with TV and writing and things like that. Is there a part of you that aches a bit for doing live, or were you someone who like live as a means to writing stuff that I'm to do, and it's a thing that it's a toothache I've got to put up with for now?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't really know. I do. I know that I do miss it, definitely. And so doing the show that we'll talk about later, the Live of the Moth, it was really nice being back in the room with live comedy, because it is, as you know, it's such a special thing. But it's also so terrifying and so tough on the adrenal glands.
Yes.
And the sleep patterns, but yes, there's nothing like it.
Would you think there'll be, because you, like I said, you did this gorgeous big West End run? Do you think that we'll get treated to the Pin coming back on our stages?
Oh man, I hope so. I mean, we called that show The Comeback, so it's sort of we've done the PR of it's easy to reboot. I hope at some point. Yeah, we'd love to do something live again.
I can't wait. You've done The Comeback, now you have to do the finale, and then you can do the encore. And those are, that's the triptych.
God. That is so good. Yes. Okay, great. Just writing that down.
You're welcome. Well, we're going to chat more about the project that you've got coming up. We're going to have a little bit of music so we can get stuck into it properly and have a good old chat. This is the...
I came up in the hood infested with teenage hustlers, street grinders, paper chasing, scraping bucks by keeping dust up noses and cane on pipe. So they can one day ride candy paint just like the man. That feeder trying not to bite his hand, but they need him to keep from life where they stand. Every night praying, my prayers go as far as the ceiling. Got me feeling like I'm from all this heart that I'm dealing and all of this liquor hoeing, rubber and goose necking that I do but don't want to. Got me losing blessings. God said he'll take the next 2 steps if I take the first. I did, but ended up picking Santa spurs from under my feet. Lost faith and jumping in the streets, back to serving rock, down to the crumb and the heat, and running with G's dedicated to the block with them that left me alone when my greens were up like pot liquor. All I know, that I've been down this road before. It ain't the first time, won't be the last. I gotta slow down 'cause I'm living too fast. It's time to admit I need some help. I can't feed myself. I ain't been around who's straight, who real, who fake, and who ain't. You can clock my consistent and endless efforts of upliftment. Trees and branches get trailed when I'm chopping down the path to walk down. Actually don't even know how talk sound. I'm trying to stop the next step that they draw on the chalk ground. Matter of factly, I'll stand alone with no entourage to back me. God is my every existent exhalation. Exactly. I pin prophecy so profound that labels won't like to contract me. I'm one of a kind. They gotta find a satellite to contact me. Let us bow and thank the Almighty God for right now, for the strength to smile through the tribulation and trial, for sparing me when the devil was daring me and scaring me. Synonymous for preparing me. And to my family, the Dodger family, and y'all family, we all family. And to my health and my home and my son, Kingston, my tongue is my gun. Revolution's already begun. All I know, that I've been down this road before. It ain't the first time, won't be the last. I gotta slow down 'cause I'm living too fast. It's time to admit I need some help. I can't feed myself. I ain't been around who's straight, who real, who fake, and who ain't. It's about who great. All I know is charge cards, cars and clothes. Man, it's all for show. And all could go, and when it's gone, you alone. Running up your soul phone, calling God for who to say that day ain't all for clothes. And if you ball and play, only 'cause God's your cold. And it don't matter about the lies you told, laws you broke, things you drank, dang your cigars you smoke. He gon' forgive you, and that's why. Don't get me wrong, I like air, but God's the goal. He the greatest of all time, and from blind to blind. Can't get an amen. But we got to stop doing dirt. Coming to church with a devil tucked in your purse. Sister Samantha from Atlanta came up finish a proud. Worried about Sister Martha how. Always worried about what Sister Martha wow. This shit wild or this shit right at Martha down. It don't matter, at least Sister Martha down. In Sunday service with a Bible like a furnace side. But God bless her. We here to thank God. And that's step inside this holy church thanking. I say step inside this holy church thanking. We all God's private and not just Kurt Franklin. All I know, that I've been down this road before. It ain't the first time, won't be the last. Gotta slow down 'cause I'm living too fast. It's time to admit I need some help. I can't feed myself. I ain't been around who's straight, who real, who fake, and who ain't. It's about who
Listening to BBC Radio Wales, I'm Kiri Prichard-Mclean and I'm joined by a fantastic comedian and writer, Ben Ashenden, and we are chatting about the new show that is pretty much like come from the brain of you and Alex, your partner in The Pin, which is live at the Moth Club, which I'm so excited about because it's an incredible sort of snapshot of the UK comedy scene right now. It starts on Thursday at 10 p.m. on Dave. So what is the premise of Live at the Moth Club?
Firstly, I'm so glad you remembered when it's on, because that's the one thing that I was like, I won't remember. And thank you, but the original idea was by Rupert Majendi. He's the director, and it was his idea. We came on board. The premise is that Dave, the channel Dave, has sent a documentary crew to track to see what happens down at a comedy club in East London called the Moth Club, which is an all working men's club. that is real. It really exists. It does actually have a live comedy gig there called Moth Club. We've all performed there. It's a real thing, and it's an incredible place. So the acts that perform in each episode are real comedy acts doing their actual sets in front of real audiences, and then backstage that's where it's scripted. That's the stuff we've written. So things go on backstage with various characters that are kind of based on real people that exist in the building each night when the show's on. And it's a lot of fun.
Great, because it's sort of a cross between, it's a great showcase of sort of the stand-up and alternative scene, but also a sitcom happening around that as well, which I feel like has I just think it's really interesting that it has never been done that earnestly before, where you have people doing their best gear and getting a telly gig in this perfect live venue that, like you say, we've all played with the fall curtains behind us, but then also the happenings of the building, because so often on the circuit the buildings themselves are as much as a character as the people in the green room backstage.
Oh God, that's such a good point. Yeah, totally. And this one has so much character. The Moth Club, if anyone's ever been, it's in East London in Hackney, and it's an old working men's club, and it's just got a very specific vibe. And it's I mean, it's real. It's a real one-off venue. It's got lots of gold. Lots of gold everywhere. I mean, you look fantastic when you're on the stage. Obviously, it's lots of sequins and tassels, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, but also some of that nice sort of orange hardwood. So there's lots of sort of like panelling around, and there's this sort of picture of one of the old chairmans up on the stage as well, who's in a blazer. And then the green room has sort of, I think there's a picture of the Queen in the green room, and it's quite sort of, carpeted.
Churchill.
Yes,
I think there's a darts board, maybe on Churchill or next to Churchill. The political motivations were all very vague. And it was quite tough because in the show, obviously, the green room is essentially one of the sets. You know, lots of things happen in the green room, and we're filming throughout the day, and then the live gig starts for real in the evening, and so acts were arriving in the evening to do the live gig whilst we were still filming in the green room. So their green room was the green room, and there were moments where people were asking me, like, on what level are we working right now? Is this part of the show, or is this part of the evening show? And I just thought, just let the cameras roll. It'll be one or the other.
Well, it's very interesting. The cast you've got is amazing. It's so good. You know,
God, so lucky,
the Demetrios are in it, Ellie White, you know, Casmus Bino, like just people who are brilliant. Also, Mark Heap, who is an absolute icon of British comedy.
Right?
And you've got the guys from Cardinal Burns in there. So it's all killer, no filler, this lineup, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And it was so well booked, and we managed to squeeze a few people to record their sets before they went up to Edinburgh, because we filmed it during August, which is not a great time to film a show about comedy because everyone's in Edinburgh. And for me it was so much fun because I got to sort of pretend I was in Edinburgh, because I saw some of the best acts every night. And I think they all come really well in the show. So if watching the show kind of, I hope, feels like, semi-sitcom, but also semi like you've gone to see a live gig.
Yeah. I'm so excited to watch it because the acts you've got on are amazing. And I think the acts who sort of are part of the venue, what I'm interested in is, because you and Alex have written it, which is like no mean feat, handing over your words to people who are as funny as Katie Wicks and as brilliant. Like, I always think I'd be so intimidated to hand over a script and go, I think this is funny. Do you?
Oh, definitely. Oh, it's hell. Yeah, you give them the script and you just run. You go to bed and hope it all comes out. Yeah, no, Katie Wicks is obviously phenomenal in this. And lots of people, it was also lots of improvising. So lots of I'm sure your favourite bits won't be things I've written. It'll be things that all these geniuses said. But yeah, Mark Heap. I mean, obviously all I wanted to do was talk to him about greenwing.
Of course, yeah. And
over and over again.
And spaced, yeah. I'd be absolutely, I'd make myself a nuisance. But that's what I thought. I was like, from looking at this, they have also picked people who, it's quite a confident thing as a writer to go, we're going to stuff this full of people who are very good improvisers as well. And sort of allow them the space. Because I wondered how much of it was scripted and how much of what we see just happened in the moment. I mean, a lot of it was scripted, but also we sort of asked other people to write their own bits occasionally. So Jamie and
Tasha Dimitriou and Ellie White, those guys all kind of went away and wrote their own stuff. Similarly with Cardinal Burns, and our job was just to thread it all together to make sure it made sense and that it all kind of fitted together as a sort of story. So you come back each episode wanting to know what's happened to this sort of family of people. Yeah.
Great. Do you know what I think it'll be like? So when you watch back Phoenix Nights, which is obviously set in a club, but you don't have the performances like you do, so you don't have the.
Yeah.
But if you came up like I did on the Northwest Comedy Circuit, it's a real who's who of everyone that you watched when you were coming up gigging. So you can name nearly every single person from Phoenix Nights. You're like, oh yeah, that's Janice who does Barbara, and that's Des Sharples who runs, Eat Little Las Iguanas, Laughter on, Lamar's, all this kind of stuff. It's just an incredible snapshot of a period in time of a comedy circuit that's absolutely thriving. And from the names you've got coming up and everyone involved in it on and off screen, it feels like it's another time capsule. That's what I'm telling you, Ben.
Yeah.
You managed to catch the zeitgeist again. How do you do it?
Yeah, just making these time capsules left and digging them, burying them away. And hopefully season 2, if we do another season, then we just don't film it in August. Don't film it when all the comedians have gone to Edinburgh. And you've got to come and be in it.
Yes, please. That's legally binding now.
That is legally binding. That went out on air.
I'll rip this off BBC Sounds and I will send it to my agent. I hope it gets a